Hi, this is Green Philosophy. Today I'm going to be sharing an original essay on what most people get wrong about Henry David Thoreau. My prep school teachers did me a disservice. Thoreau wasn't only a man who lived in a cabin, graduated from Harvard, and wrote quote-unquote American literature, end quote. He was critical of society in every way. He thought the political parties were a joke, a house was a form of slavery, most people couldn't afford it in the 1850s and can't today, that the indigenous were smart enough to build a wigwam that takes at most one day's work, not a lifetime's labor and money. I inherited a house, so I understand his admonition that properties are more easily inherited than disposed of. Owning property makes us, quote, serfs to the soil, end quote, and that is a reference to feudalism most literature teachers miss. Of course, this is merely ironic, as owning property would make you a member of the bourgeoisie, the ownership class, and in the Middle Ages, the people who were not property owners were the serfs. They were the low class. Thoreau thought the New England Protestants cut their quote-unquote spiritual bread, unquote, too thin, and that most people within society care more for fashion than morality. Thoreau also thought that the majority of people within society, particularly Americans, are desperate to not live by faith. On the other hand, the Apostle Paul said that the just shall live by faith. Thoreau was a grade A genius, but because Americans are by nature a surface people, of course, his writing is unintelligible to them. His wordplay is sophisticated, his humor is ironic, he peddles in paradoxes. People focus too much on Thoreau's experience living in the woods. While he did do so, he used his time in the woods to strip away the facade of society. It isn't about a Robinson Crusoe style survivalism. It's intended to shape people into less brainwashed individuals, critical of recognizing and disputing the absurdities of their society. One aspect of Thoreau's cynical or macabre personality is that he says, quote, a person who builds a house is a carpenter who is really a coffin maker, end quote. The concept of the home as a soon-to-be coffin puts Thoreau in the same tradition as the Carpe Diem poets, such as Herbert Spencer. My cousin Joe says that in modern schools, students do too much sitting and too little doing. Thoreau thought the students at Cambridge would be better served to build their own house. For instance, for the price of a year's rent, they could also gain the experience in the, quote, experiment of living, end quote. Also, Thoreau finds it ironic that boys attend college and read books on economics such as Adam Smith and Ricardo, while their fathers go into debt. Thoreau mentions that, quote, compound interest belongs to the devil, end quote, a sentiment that the Russian blogger Dmitry Orlov morphed into compound interest or usury is when the parasite comes to consume the host. Thoreau's line, quote, technology such as trains, these are improved means to unimproved ends, end quote, resonated with me. One irony is that Thoreau mentions that John the Baptist was able to get his message out without improved transportation such as trains. Another irony, Thoreau mentions that he can walk somewhere quicker than he can work to pay for his fare on a train. Another great observation, people earn money that could allow them to travel, but when they get old, they lose both the desire and the energy for travel. I look forward to your questions and comments.